And a pleasant good afternoon. You're watching a presentation of women's college gymnastics here on ESPN Plus. As today, the Tonry Invitational from Yale University sees a trio of gymnastics East teams square off here at the John J. Lee Amphitheater. Bridgeport and Southern Connecticut State travel to New Haven to take on the Yale University Bulldogs. Hello, everybody. Alongside former Ohio State men's gymnast Paris McGee Jr., I'm JJ Duke. And first, before we get into today's meet, we talk about the reason why we are having this meet here today. It's the annual Tonry Invitational dedicated to the memory and, well, really the great servants to this sport, and especially here in New Haven to Barbara and Don. Barbara, of course, longtime women's head coach here at Yale University, who passed away a couple of years ago. And Paris, to bring you in, I know you're someone who is local to the scene here in New Haven, and the ties run deep. Obviously, the sport, it's a sport that's spread across not only this country but the world, but the gymnastics world is so close in terms of its community, and both Barbara and Don, a great legacy that they left behind.
Absolutely. She has such a huge legacy. Barbara was a pioneer not only for Yale gymnastics, but for the sport itself. And all that she has done for this program and this sport will truly be remembered forever. She has such a strong legacy, and it's just such a blessing to be here in this competition today.
Absolutely. Now focusing our attention here to today's competition. It's kind of interesting when we have these three teams that are gathered here. It's all rivals within the same conference. We're in the middle of the season right now, so it's almost kind of a sneak peek to see where exactly each of these teams are, as we look in first at Yale University in this tri-meet, who will be starting on the vault. They're a team that, right now they're kind of rising. They're looking to make the marks that they wanted. They hit 22 of 24 routines last week at home against Temple, a very good score for them at a 193.6. Probably the vault is where they're still growing at the moment, but they really did a nice job on the beam and the floor, and one of the main reasons why was the outstanding work of the first year in Hannah Strauss, who averaged over a 9.7 in both events. As you're getting a look at some of the players warming up right now, but Paris, I know for you, Hannah was someone that was very instrumental, especially in that beam team last week, to get them off the mark and get them running.
Absolutely. She is one of my favorite gymnasts on this team. She has such a unique look. As I said last week, she reminds me of the gymnasts back in the 90s who were true all-around gymnasts that were extremely artistic. That is Anna, and again, I just can't wait to see her work today in competition.
Yeah, she will be again performing on both the beam and the floor coming up just a little bit later on for Yale. We turn our attention now to the University of Bridgeport. Bridgeport, who will be starting today on the bars, and one of the athletes that you really have to keep an eye on is their anchor, and she's someone that is a specialist and has in fact won the Gymnastics East Conference Specialist of the Week already twice this year, and that would be the senior from Georgetown, Texas, Joanna Chambers, who's averaging over a 9.7 in both the vault and the beam this season.
She's exceptional on this event, and she's another one that I cannot wait to see in this competition on the uneven bars. Speaking of head coach Lorraine, before the competition, she said that she is lucky because she has some 5th and 6th years who took an extra year just to be on the team, so she is spoiled, and we're going to see some of the gymnasts that spoil her today in competition.
Yeah, she's currently ranking 8th in Gymnastics East at bars average at a 9.719, but she's gone as high as a 9.75, and also she's among the top 10 in the Gymnastics East in the vault as well. We'll talk about more on Bridgeport in just a little bit, but we also now go over to the floor, which is where Southern Connecticut State will be starting off today's meet. And for the Owls, who ended last season with an absolute bang, they scored a program record 194.2 in Gymnastics East, actually beat their seed going into that competition to finish 5th. And they're a team right now that actually competed twice last week and posted back-to-back their best scores, most notably against Brown last Sunday with a 192.5. And someone that we'll be keeping an eye on, especially to start this day on the floor, would be the outstanding performer in Hannah Zebdi, the junior from Ashburn, Virginia.
This team, coached by head coach Knox, is great on this event. This is such a strong event for the team to start on. He will be really focusing on cleanliness with this team. He has such a huge history and a phenomenal record with UB, and now he's with Southern, looking to repeat that same big success.
That he will, and again, it's something that's nice to build off over the last two meets, or really last weekend, where the team put together some of their best numbers on the season, where this team has their strength is actually where they start in the floor. As a team, they average over a 48-2. And as we saw a little bit last week, Paris, the floor score is starting to go up a little bit as the season goes on. Athletes are adding a bit more difficulty to some of their passes, and also it's a lot cleaner. And maybe this is where Southern, at their best, they could be a team that could go as high as a 48-6, 48-7.
Yes, for Yale, Bridgeport, and Southern, these floor scores are going to be interesting today. Last week and throughout the NCAA, the floor scores have been a little low this season, but they are building, as you said. And to start there for Southern would be major. So if they can hit some good routines to start off with, they would definitely be very strong going into this competition.
Now, because of this being a tri-meet, we will be doing our best to make sure we capture as much of the action as possible, but we will be going basically kind of featuring on the bars and the vault and the floor, and then we'll have the occasional replays in full, also routines of the vault and the beam, as it looks like we are just about ready to go here. Again, it will be Yale on the vault, it will be Bridgeport on the bars, and Southern Connecticut State, who will be on the floor. For Bridgeport, they're going to be led off by, on the bars here, Abigail Kenny. Southern on the floor, Erica Bayer, and for Yale, Sarah Wilson will be on the vault. And in fact, we could probably get over to vault here really quickly, as Sarah Wilson is about ready to compete. As Wilson, the junior from Alpharetta, Georgia, has gone as high as a 9.8 this season.
She'll be competing a bigger Chankle tuck full. And a great opening vault. Beautiful amplitude.
And immediately now over to the floor for Southern, Erica Bayer. Bayer, outstanding gymnast in her own right. The sophomore from State College, Pennsylvania, is averaging over 9.5 this season.
As the first gymnast up, you really want to be able to put a good routine down on the floor so your team can build off of. The first gymnast up for the Owls. Looks like she's doing just that.
Bayer this season on the floor has actually competed on every meet on the floor specifically. You're seeing some of the points of emphasis as well that we'll be seeing from the judges here. You're saying cleanliness right now is probably the main concern for these three teams.
Absolutely. You really want to make sure that your tumbling and your leaps and jumps are as perfect as you can possibly execute them. Nice last pass. Rudy to intermediate stag jump. And a good start for the Owls.
Yeah, very good start for the sophomore Erica Bayer. Her season best, a 9.65. We throw it over to Bridgeport now. In fact, this was their first athlete up on the afternoon. This is Abigail Kenny. A little bit of a big step on the landing there. They'll be seeing Karen Ross, a former Rutgers gymnast, head up next. Ross, the junior from Reno, Nevada, has competed on every event at some point during the season. Her season best on the bars is a 9.65.
Ross is exceptional on this event, and she has lines to die for. As you can see, she is a little taller, one of the taller gymnasts in competition, which means that her gymnastics is a little more difficult to do, but when done, it is so much more beautiful to watch.
And there's also, you do have to kind of work with the apparatus as well, especially for those taller gymnasts. But hey, that's what you're able to move them for. Allow everyone to compete. Can tell you already, Sarah Wilson for Yale, 9.675 on the vault. It's actually a very good start for her, almost a
beautiful
season high.
release. Very huge and unique. A little short of that handstand going down to the low bar. Back up on top, a little shy of that handstand. but a great dismount and a good routine. She is pumped.
Yeah, it's a very good follow-up after the first gymnast up. That would have been Abigail Kenny. Took a big step on the landing, but a solid routine there from Kieran Ross. Take a look at some of the most recent Yale vaults here. Again, this was Sarah Wilson scoring a 9.675. Her season best, by the way, it's a 9.8. That's a sensational start.
Absolutely huge, great amplitude. Oren back up with another huge vault. Small hop forward. Yale's doing so great in this first rotation on vault.
Now back over to the floor for Southern Connecticut State. Ava Boyd out there right now. Boyd, this senior from Braintree, Mass, has gone as high as a 9.6 on the floor this season.
Great second pass. The floor exercise is all about having fun. It's about performing, choosing music that you can dance to get the audience and the crowd involved.
Trying to play to the crowd as well. And a great vault, by the way, by Amy Teisch, the senior captain for Yale, after she had a fall last week on this event. That's great to see her put that 1 feet down to the floor. Again, it's a 3-ring circus as we go on. Well, really, it's a 4-ring when we got everyone involved here, but chaos everywhere. This is a great one there for Amy.
She really gets that block and wraps that full around. She does kind of pike down, but she lands on her feet, and there is no better feeling than to land a big vault like that after falling a little short last weekend.
Back over now to the bars. Lola Sepulveda, the freshman from Woodbridge, Virginia. This is someone that has had some struggles on the bars this season. Her average is below a 9.1 and her season best a 9.475. But the expectation from Bridgeport is that Sepulveda is going to be a key contributor on the scoring as we go throughout later in the season.
You can see she's doing her best to stay focused. It's quite a pause on the uneven bars. It looks like there's a judging discrepancy.
Yeah, as we've already actually had a couple of those. I know we're not on the same athlete in the rotation for all 3 events. A few long ones coming in. I'm trying to look around. Reagan Walker on vault actually is about ready to go here, so maybe we could get over to her really quickly. And here is Reagan. She's gone as high as a 9.75 this year.
And a great vault, so much power. She does take a couple steps forward, hop in a step, but that was beautiful nonetheless.
Yeah, this is a great start for Yale on the vault. Has gone as high as a 48.575. Back over to Sepulveda on the bars.
Bars is one of the weaker events for Bridgeport, so to get it out the way in the first rotation is good for them. Small step forward, but that was a good routine. All hits so far for UB.
As we go back over the floor quickly in the middle of the routine, Abby Royer out there right now for the Owls, a freshman from Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Has gone as high as a 9.8 this season.
That was a beautiful opening pass from Miss Royer.
Yeah, right now, this is the 3rd athlete up here for Southern Connecticut State. Erica Bayer led off for the Owls with a 9.6.
Great second pass. Coach Byron said that his team is working on their cleanliness on this event, and she is performing very clean.
And that's the big one that you said, Paris, today. It's just about clean, getting hits, 24 for 24. And yeah, thus far, it's a good start for Southern. Gigi Sabatini just moments ago on the vault.
And that is a huge vault for Yale. Just a freshman, but she is competing like a veteran. Beautiful Yurchenko full twisting vault.
Sophomore Olivia Imbarlina, an outstanding performer for University of Bridgeport. USA Gymnastics Collegiate Championship qualifier in the beam and the vault, and also goes pretty high on the beam or the bars as well with a 9.7 this season.
Here she is getting up for a big dismount. Blindfold, a little trouble, but she makes it to an immediate double tuck. Small hop forward. Her team is pumped.
It is a good start, though, for Bridgeport on the bars. Abigail Kenny, a 9.375. Kieran Ross, a 9.35. That was Sherry Wong on the vault, the junior anchor for the Bulldogs. The good news is, though, for Yale, the previous 5 athletes able to put their feet to the floor on the vault, so they shouldn't have too many issues right now. And in fact, we can lock in a 48.425 on the vault, which is only just a tenth and a half off of their season high. The rest of the scorers for Yale, Reagan Walker and Sarah Wilson, each a 9.675. Ava Boyd on the floor, a 9.575. Again, not the highest scores that we've seen on the floor, but still, again, they're making sure that they're hitting routines.
Absolutely. Clean and safe routines guaranteed to stick. That is the motto of gymnastics, and that is what these girls, all these girls from all of the teams, are striving for.
Catherine Acoin, the sophomore from Austin, Texas. She's gone as high as a 9.7 on the bars this season. Competed in every meet thus far for Bridgeport.
And a beautiful release to a beautiful pack salto. She actually missed that in warm-ups, but she made it here, and she takes a small pause. That will be a deduction, but she is recovering very well. Here she is swinging extremely powerful for a huge double L dismount. She should be proud. That was a beautiful pack salto.
And for Bridgeport, thus far, thus good. I know they're going to try their best to not count that score from a coin as we go back over to the floor for Libby Allen, the sophomore from Franklin, Texas. And a high score on the floor of a 9.775, and that was at Penn State early last month, one of the first meets of the season for Southern.
And she falters in that second pass. Front lay to a front full. You know, it's so important to be able to rebound when you make little errors in the routine.
Yeah, it's really just about now fighting through right here and make sure to finish strong, because it's passing the baton to the next athlete, especially when Hannah Zebdi, who's been performing so consistently for Southern over the last couple of weeks, just to make sure that she can build right off of it.
And she finishes with a strong last pass, proving her mental toughness.
Coming back quickly to the vault exhibition routine for first-year Megan Brueck.
And she was just a little short, but again, that is an extremely difficult vault.
And here's the athlete we highlighted at the top of the show for Bridgeport, the outstanding Joanna Chambers, again, so consistent on this event for Bridgeport. Lolo Sepulveda with a 9.5. Also Olivia Imbarlina with a 9.425.
Beautiful blindfold to immediate ganger. And a small hop forward. That was actually a really good, unique routine. I'm quite surprised that she did that release move towards the end of the routine. Typically, gymnasts would like to get that out the way, but she's so good she can hold it off till the end. Great, strong routine.
And again, just so consistent on that event. Scored a 9.725 on a couple of occasions this season on bars leading up to this week. And because she was able to complete that one solidly, it looks like Bridgeport will drop Catherine Acoin's 9.225 that she had to kind of audible after a little bit of a mishap there. No falls, though, for Bridgeport on the bars. We go back over to Hannah Zebdi, who we talked about, who's been so solid on the floor this season, averaging a 9.7. She was a second-team All-GEC on the floor last year.
And the Sky in double tuck to open up. Coach Byron was very strategic when starting on the floor. He said he wants to end on the balance beam to work on the nerves of his team.
It does make sense. The scoring averages this year for Southern have been a little bit lower than usual on the beam, excuse me.
Absolutely, and it's so important that you can kind of replicate championship season when you know you're going to be ending on a certain event at a big championship. You want to kind of get that preparation done ahead of time.
Yeah, that's the big one because you want to build your seed up because, of course, you want that home rotation in the championship.
And a beautiful pass. Almost bounced out with that jump, but she holds it off. And a great last routine from the Owls.
Yeah, outstanding job there from Zebdi, who we will see a little bit later on as well. Exhibition routine for Savannah Lindley. That was the noise you're hearing about. The sophomore from Oklahoma City, just able to fight.
And as you can tell, she was so happy and so pumped to make that on her feet. And warm up, she did sit it down. So to be able to land on the feet in competition, that is major.
Now, exhibition routines are just as important. I know they don't count in terms of the scoring for your team on the day, but it's not only getting the repetition, but it's also you get to see what the judges are looking at. And for the head coaches, maybe could be a score that you can count on later on the season.
Absolutely. And for the gymnasts, it gives them that experience to be able to know what it feels like to compete in a real competition. You never know what can happen in the sport of gymnastics, and you just might have to be the next man up in the next competition to come.
I'm going to look at the anchor now for Southern Connecticut State. That would be Ciana Rios. This is a different lineup that we saw about an hour before that was scheduled from Byron Knox. Ava Boyd was actually supposed to be the exhibition routine, but the original anchor, Alexa Melanson, was scratched. So now it's Ciana Rios, who is scheduled to compete second on the day, now gets the last spot to try and finish off what's been a pretty solid day on the floor thus far for the Owls. Currently right now they're trying to drop the Libby Allen score of a 9.525.
And a great opening pass. It's so important to choose music that a gymnast can work to, and she is absolutely working to this music.
And also, not only she's working to it, the team is playing off of it. It's Southern Connecticut's rather large roster that they have. You have about an extra 40 cheerleaders on the side doing all the moves with you.
Hey, nothing better than that, huh?
And even though this is a road meet for Southern Connecticut State's campus, only about a 10-minute drive or so here from Yale, so you can almost make this as a home meet because you're going to get a lot of fans behind you.
Absolutely, and that's one of the best things about traveling to in-state competitions. You can really pull in a home crowd to help you compete like that. And that is a strong routine. Strong last final routine for the Owls here on the floor exercise.
Yeah, that's a good rotation for Southern. And it looks like they should be able to drop their low score of a 9.525. Bridgeport is in. They don't have to count the coin mishap. Is the outstanding Joanna Chambers, a 9.625. Purple Knights above their season average at a 47.275, and a solid vault rotation for Yale as well. They're likely going to be leading after one rotation with a strong 48.425, led by the Looking here, the 9.725 of Oren Aviad and Gigi Sabatini. Did have a fall in there from Sherry Wong, but they don't have to count that. All right, so that's going to do it here for this first rotation. We'll update the scores when we come back after this, but you're watching the Tonry Invitational from Yale University back after this on ESPN+. Continue to have some, just on this day, moments looking back. After one rotation here from John J. Lee Amphitheater, Yale, a very solid vault score of a 48.425, only a .150 off of their season high. Bridgeport, another good rotation for them on the bars as well. And Southern on the floor. This is one where you were speaking about, Paris, where head coach Byron Knox wanted this to be a big, big score for them. They wanted cleanliness, and they certainly got it. Didn't really have to count the one little mishap that they had earlier.
No, they did a great job on this event, and they're in good contention to really be able to hold off and try and get a lead in this competition.
Taking a look at some of the replays from earlier, Hannah Zebdi and Sienna Rios. Zebdi with a 9.675, Rios with a 9.775. Yale, best vault from Oren Aviad, a 9.725, and we said earlier, Joanna Chambers, a special gymnast, and she was special on the bars today, a 9.625, the high score of the bunch. We'll be back for rotation number 2 after this on ESPN. Rotation 2 about ready to go here from New Haven, Connecticut. It'll be Yale going to the bars, Bridgeport to the beam, and Southern Connecticut State will be going to the vault right in front of us alongside Paris McGee Jr. I'm JJ Duke, and Paris for Yale on the bars. They had a very good rotation at that spot last week, a 48.5. For the vault for Southern Connecticut State, they've been averaging a 47.5. Bridgeport on the beam, been looking to try and pick it up a little bit, but they have scored as high as a 48.775, so they've got the big numbers within them. You're getting a look at second-year head coach for Yale, Andy Lease, the Gymnastics East Coach of the Year, and also was the Ken Anderson 2022 USA Gymnastics Collegiate Coach of the Year as well, helping Yale to a fine season last year. As we go over now to the vault for Southern Connecticut State, Libby Allen.
And a great opening vault, a soup layout, difficult entry vault, more simpler.
She's averaging usually around a 9.5 this season, and after a very strong vault, or an Aviad to lead us off here on the bars. Aviad scored a 9.75 on the vault. And the season has averaged over a 9.635.
She's such a great gymnast to lead off on this event. Very clean, tight, and consistent. Beautiful handstand position. Blind on top of that bar. Little leg separation, but immediate to a huge dismount. Immediate blind to a huge double tuck dismount.
Well, she scored well last week, a 9.625. Jordan Street on the beam, the grad student from Agawam, Mass.
You know, this beam lineup is head coach's favorite because this team just loves to compete on this event. They are exceptional, and this is definitely one of the stronger events for Bridgeport.
Street this season been extremely consistent. Scored a 9.45 in all 3 beam routines she's had this season.
And a beautiful punch tuck full dismount. Small hop on the landing, but great routine.
That's a good start there for Bridgeport on the beam. In fact, sent it back over here to the vault. Elena Bailey is about ready to go, the sophomore from Woodbridge, Virginia. the 4th time she's vaulted this season for Southern Connecticut State and has gone as high as a 9.55.
Pretty good vault, Yurchenko layout. She does kind of falter on that landing. Head coach said that they're really going to be focusing on clean landings, one of the biggest things that the judges look for when it comes to the vault.
Libby Allen had a 9.425. Now Sarah Wilson just missed on her first release a moment ago here for Yale. She's taken a second to collect herself and then restart her routine.
This is the release that she had missed a toe on Tkachev. Unfortunately, because she restarts her routine, she won't be able to get a restart in the judging, and she falters again. But she finishes so strong.
That's a tough one there because Wilson last week was sensational on the bars with a 9.8, which was in fact the best score that Yale had a week ago.
Absolutely. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how she comes back. She is an all-around gymnast, so she will be on the balance and the floor exercise in this competition to come. Yale still is very strong on the uneven bars, and they still have some big routines to come.
Absolutely. The likes of Sabatini and Walker and their anchor, Caitlin Henry, who's almost assured if she does what she usually does, capable of a big score. Lola Sepulveda waiting to go on the beam. Sienna Rios about ready to begin on the vault as well. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. Sepulveda, who scored a 9.5 on the bars, or excuse me, on the vault. I had it right on the bars earlier. This is that last vault from Rios.
And I'm pretty sure that she was actually supposed to compete a different vault. She does get jammed up on top of the table, which means that when she comes and brings her arms on top of the vault, they kind of bend a little too much for her to block off of and get enough height to actually compete the vault that she needed to do.
Yeah, so that's going to be the score that probably Southern looking to drop. As all 3 events currently on a standstill right now, there's a scoring discrepancy on the beam. The last routine for Street. As you see on the left, Lorraine Gallo, the 2nd-year head coach for Bridgeport, a Purple Knights alum as well. She's been around with this program for, well, pretty much her entire competitive and coaching career, was an assistant for nearly a decade and then took over as the interim in the spring of 21 before being the first season head coach last year.
And it's so interesting. She was actually a part of that huge reign that the Southern coach, Byron Knox, was a part of. She used to be Byron's former gymnast for UB, and now she is the head coach of the program. So such a beautiful full circle moment.
That it is, and Bridgeport, a program that has seen great heights in its history. They qualified for NCAA regionals as a team in Gainesville about a decade ago. We can go over to the bars actually, as Gigi Sabatini underway.
And that was a good routine from Gigi. Small form breaks, but definitely the routine that the team needs coming after that fall from Wilson.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want. You need someone to just go out and hit their routine and then get the momentum back going. To the vault here, Brianna Dorr.
And that is the vault that not only this team needed, but one that we probably won't even see again. That was such a huge vault, great amplitude, beautiful stick.
That's a stick, and that's a score you want right there. Dorr has gone as high as a 9.725. They might be going a little higher. As now Sepulveda underway on the beam.
Such a difficult combination. She did have an extremely long wait to be able to start her routine, so it's going to be interesting to see how she works her nerves, but she is moving beautifully on this event so far.
Scores coming in on the vault. Allen started for Southern with a 9.425. Elena Bailey a 9.15. And Sienna Rios with an 8.9. So not going to be a big mark here for Southern.
Whoa, and that was a nice save. That skill that you just saw is extremely difficult. And she almost falls, but she saves it. Here she is, going for her big dismount, and that is pretty huge. Not a common dismount that you've seen. A punch, 1.5.
Sherry Wong just completed her bars routine, and after a fall on the vault, this is a great sign for her.
Absolutely, and she just narrowly tried to stick that dismount.
After Oren Aviad's 9.7 and Sarah Wilson with an 8.8. Sabatini and Wong have done their jobs. Back over to the vault for Southern, Hannah Zebdi.
And another strong vault. Southern is picking up the pace on this event. 2 back-to-back strong Yurchenko tuck fulls.
And again, Zebdi already off to a good start with the 9.675. You were speaking to head coach Byron Knox earlier. Yes, the longtime former Bridgeport coach, then moves over to Southern during the COVID season and led Southern to that impressive beat of seed last year, finishing 5th in the Gymnastics East Championship meet. Back over to Yale on bars now. Reagan Walker about ready to go. This is the 5th athlete up here for the Bulldogs, who again are still, they're looking to drop Sarah Wilson's 8.8.
This California native will be bringing the heat on the uneven bars. Beautiful amplitude on that release. She is my favorite bar worker throughout this whole conference. I mean, the cleanliness that she has, open shoulders, beautiful toe point. Can she stick this huge double L dismount? Oh, and I think the judges are gonna give it to her. That was huge. The best bar routine that we have seen of the day.
That it was, and with a couple of 9.7 and a 9.75 from Sabatini and Wong, Yale seem back on their way. Big vault here for Lexi Bratcher, the anchor for Southern.
And this is the hardest vault that we've seen, similar to the other Yurchenko tuck fulls, but this one was done in the laid out position.
Against Southern, they're gonna have to count at least one low score in there, but it's a good bounce back for the Owls. Kieran Ross on the beam now, the junior from Nevada. This is probably her best event. She's gone as high as a 9.7 this season and averaging a 9.637.
Oh, and that is extremely difficult. Aerial to an immediate. Another landing on 2 feet.
Yeah, they've been fighting it thus far, but still no major issues thus far for the Purple Knights. Streets 9.525, Sepulveda's 9.45.
What I love about her gymnastics the most, again, is her lines. She's a lot taller than her competitor, excuse me. And so everything that she does just accentuates her beauty and her lines. Here she is gearing up for a huge dismount.
And a stick.
And a stick. A strong 1.5 stick. Head coach said that they made a bet with each other to actually stick the dismounts in this competition today.
Caitlin Henry. Well, that's a pretty solid bars routine, especially after counting, trying not to count Sarah Wilson's 8.8. We've got a lot of 9.7s, a couple 9.75s in there.
Absolutely. Another look at that double L dismount. She does kind of pike, but she makes it around to her feet. And again, after the fall from Sarah Wilson, this is the routine that you want. A good job by Yale coming back.
That it is. It's not going to be the mark that they had a week ago, which was a 48.5. They've gone as high this season on the bars as a 48.65. And now with both Southern Connecticut State and Yale done, all 6 up, I believe there might be an exhibition coming for Yale. No, there is not. So yeah, it's going to be all Bridgeport from here on out. That's what you get sometimes with scoring discrepancies. And I know for the athletes, Paris, you're not focusing on everything else that's happening around you, but it's awfully hard too.
Absolutely it is. So to be that gymnast, to just be able to compete with no other madness going on, it just might help when it comes to focus.
In Paris, I actually got my mental math wrong. That's why I don't do math. I rely on the numbers to tell me things. Yale just put together a rather big number. They just tied their season high on bars with a 48.675. Henry posted a 6.75. Reagan Walker with a 9.85. She had that stick earlier. You're nodding as if there's nothing new there.
You know, because it isn't. You know, I can talk about Reagan and her gymnastics all day, and knowing that she will be graduating after this season, I'm crying already.
Well, that ties her season best, and it ties the 4th highest bar scored in Gymnastics East this season. We're waiting for the green flag for Hannah Berry to get her routine going. Thus far, Bridgeport only 3 scores in there thus far. Waiting on what Kieran Ross scored. Sepulveda at a 9.45, Street a 9.525 to lead off. And after we have Barry's routine, we'll also have Olivia Imbarlina and then the anchor Nicole Javinet. I guess on the counter, we're not really focusing on what is happening elsewhere, but for the athletes that are up later in that back half of the order, you're kind of having that mental clock to say, okay, 4 or 5 athletes up, I should be going at about this time. And how do you stay warm and stay kind of locked in, knowing that it might take another 5-8 minutes before you eventually get to go?
You know, the good thing about the gymnastics culture and community is that this is something that we train in the gym to do. We train for these moments when we might have to wait a long time like this to mount our apparatus and begin competing.
And for the teams that are already done, this is basically now a 10 to 15 minute extended dance party. If you get an ISO cam on Yale's Riley Meeks, she's just a one-woman party on her own right. As Barry still continues to wait. This is a very long break after we're still waiting on the score from Kieran Ross. And now it looks like Hannah ready to go.
You know, head coach said that this is a fierce lineup. And without a doubt, I'm confident that she's going to put up a big routine, even with the weight. And a beautiful combination, fights to stay on the beam. Front aerial to back handspring, step out, Leo, step out.
And I love it even in front of us here. We've got the Southern team cheering on Barry, knowing that she's the only person going right now, trying to give that extra support.
Absolutely, and that's what gymnastics is all about. It's a tight-knit community, one that supports all.
Of course, these athletes are going to be seeing each other throughout the year, including in the championship meet in just a little over a month's time.
And many of these athletes grew up with each other, grew up watching each other, so they know each other. And look at that huge dismount. With the exception of that small wobble earlier, this was a big routine.
Yeah, Hannah Berry, the former Temple Owl, has competed beam in all 4 meets this season. She's coming off of her season best in the team's last meet at the end of January with a 9.8. And Kieran Ross, after the deliberation from the judges, a 9.5. So they've had to fight a bit, but maybe with Berry, a solid routine right there. That turns the tables nicely for their final 2 athletes, Olivia Imbarlina and Nicole Javinet. Javinet, the latter, is exceptional on the beam, has gone as high as a 9.825 this season. And Imbarlina, who last year qualified for nationals, the USA Gymnastics Nationals finals on beam. You're seeing Olivia chat with Lorraine Gallo. Lorraine also, in addition to the team's success, at the USA Gymnastics collegiate level when she was competing, qualified for NCAA regionals on her own 3 times. So someone that's all too familiar with just about every scenario that you can have.
And I actually grew up watching her compete. I actually remember being with her and Byron at the national championship competition back in 2010 and seeing that team absolutely dominate.
Yeah, again, Bridgeport, such great success over its program history, and there was that period of time during COVID we were not sure if the program was going to come back or not, and that's kind of part of the fight that Lorraine Gallows had to work through. She had such a small squad last year, had to just dig down deep to have even 5 athletes, 4, even sometimes 4 athletes to compete, but just the resiliency, and now we're starting to see all that work put in behind the scenes. Now with a fuller roster, those numbers are skyrocketing back up.
This is a team's rebuilding phase, and Olivia is a part of that. Such a great opening aqua series. Beautiful combination. The most fluid we've seen so far today in competition.
Yeah, and Olivia has gone as high in the beam as a 9.8. She averages a 9.7. And Bridgeport have competed now in a handful of meets. This is their 5th of the season.
She is laser focused. Oh! I don't know if the judges would give her that stick credit, but that was a rather difficult dismount. Back handspring Sabato back 1.5.
Well, she was screaming like she got her team pretty convinced as well. This comes after Hannah Berry's 9.725. Bridgeport right now looking like they're posting a very solid score, going through their trends this season, Paris. And they start out the season, their first meet at Westchester, a 47.05 on the beam. Fell back a little bit a week later at Rhode Island College, a 46.525. But every meet since that, they've actually improved by a full point. They went on the road at Temple, scored a 47.825, and then a 48.775 in their last meet at Brown. They had a week to wait for this competition, but they do not look like they've missed a beat whatsoever.
Not at all, but again, they are strong at this event. This is their best event. And like their head coach said, they all are fierce.
Well, they're right now trying to drop Sepulveda's 9.45. We'll wait to see what Imbarlina's scores coming in. But I think even regardless of that, this is going to be a fine score. And maybe perhaps if Javanette can stick, this could be a new season high for them. We're awfully close to it. Currently, as it stands right now, Yale with a 48.675 in the bars. They're at 97.1 as a team thus far through 2 rotations. Southern, they had a 48.35 in the vault after a 48.325 on the floor. They're at 96.675. This is Nicole Javanette, the senior from Marlboro, New York, who is a beam specialist and can produce the goods, has gone as high as a 9.825 this season.
And a beautiful aqua series.
Paris, it doesn't look like what this rotation started for Bridgeport that was just fighting for everything on the beam. It's as fluid as you'd want it to be.
You know, each routine came up, just got better and better, and that is another extremely difficult combination. Switch leap to immediate back layout step out.
Javanette, who was a second-team All-American last year, the USA Gymnastics Collegiate Nationals, specifically on the beam. Only just the dismount left now.
Oh, and she just comes off.
Paris, I'm going to take that one. That's the curse of the commentator for me, speaking about how fluid it was looking up until this point.
Hey, you know,
I should know better.
Hey, you know, she still has a dismount to get through. She still can make a strong finish. And she does.
So we are just waiting on the score from Olivia Imbarlina to know what the Bridgeport beam team score is going to be. And that's going to be the number that they will drop. And that's the mark of the 4 thus far for Bridgeport. Also just waiting to see, was there any, yeah, there will be one exhibition to come up. Abigail Kenny was listed. Yeah, she's getting ready to go. So we'll show the exhibition score as well, and then we will pause for the changeover. Kenny has already competed. She led off the meet on the bars at the 9.375. Kenny has competed on the beam a couple of times this season, has gone as high as a 9.05. Still haven't had that number from Imbarlina click on just quite yet. But again, after this, we'll be halfway home in this 2023 Tonry Invitational. After this, it'll be Yale to go to the beam, Bridgeport will go to the floor, and Southern will be heading over to the bars. And Olivia Imbarlina's score is in. She had a 9.7. So Bridgeport in on the beam because they'll be dropping Javinette's score of a, well, we'll still yet to get it, but a 47.9. Just kind of right in between their season average thus far and their team high.
And a very difficult punch front tuck. Small hesitation on that jump combo. But a solid acro series, and that tuck was huge. Very rarely do you see gymnasts punch on the balance beam as if they're on the floor exercise, and that's what she just did right there.
Yeah, I mean, nearly got out of camera frame on that. That's how high she is.
Absolutely. Here she is getting out for that big dismount. And a beautiful round off double twist. The hardest dismount we've seen today.
And that will complete the second rotation here. Perhaps maybe the performance from Kenny might be one where Coach Gallo will think about putting into that lineup for next meet, which for them will be in a week down at William and Mary. So 2 rotations in the book here from the John J. Lee Amphitheater on the campus of Yale University. The Bulldogs, the hosts, leading thus far at 97.1, Bridgeport at 95.175, and Southern at a 96.675. Back in a moment from Yale. Welcome back here to Yale University. As after 2 rotations of the 2023 Tonry Invitational, Yale leading with a 97.1 to Southern Connecticut State's 96.675 and Bridgeport's 95.1. It's going to be the Bulldogs who will go over to the beam. Southern will go over to the bars, Bridgeport to the floor. Here's the best of the bunch, and this is your favorite, the 9.85 from Reagan Walker.
Such a strong routine. Reagan's unarguably one of the best bar workers in this competition and in the conference.
Southern Connecticut State putting together a very solid score from the vault, a 48.35. Hannah Zebdi with the 9.675 and Lexi Bratcher's 9.75. Bridgeport, they were fighting on the beam, but they ended up sticking, or putting down, I should say, 5 routines to count the score. The best of the bunch was the score out of Hannah Barry, a 9.725. Bridgeport, though, heading to the floor, which has been a challenge spot for Lorraine Gallo's team, hoping to see that number go up. And for Yale on the beam, well, the beam, this is a good team that they've got up there. They had a fall last week. They're looking to go 6 for 6. We'll have the third rotation coming up next. You're watching Women's College Gymnastics on ESPN+. Just about ready to start rotation number 3 here at John J. Lee Amphitheater. Alongside former Ohio State men's gymnast Paris McGee Jr., I'm J.J. Duke. Thanks for spending your Sunday here with us on ESPN Plus, watching women's college gymnastics. 3 Gymnastics East Conference rivals going at it, and of course also 3 Connecticut State programs here on the 2023 Tonry Invitational. Paris, so far for you, kind of a broad question, but I'll just throw it out there anyways. What has been the biggest, maybe, surprise that we've seen thus far on the afternoon?
You know, I think the biggest surprise, honestly, is how well the teams have been doing in terms of their combat. I think coming into this competition, a lot of the teams may have thought that they would have maybe put down some routines a little better than competed already. So I just think the most surprising thing is the bounce back. They've really been able to come back. Southern on vault, they had a couple of mishaps, but they came back very strong. Yale on the uneven bars, they had one fall, but again, you know, they just came back very strong. So I think the comeback in this competition is kind of surprising me the most of anything.
Well, it is getting to that midway point of the season right now, and I know we've spoken to a lot of teams trying to hit those finer details right now. But even then, you have to always find ways. Well, you don't want to challenge yourself in the ways that you have to continue fight. You're always fighting, but you want to make sure that that focus is laser sharp. As we'll have Bridgeport on the floor. You see the bottom left of your screen, Catherine Acoyne getting ready to go. On the bars, it is Southern Connecticut State, and Yale will be on the beam. And we will go right to the beam right now. This is the athlete we highlighted at the top of the show, Hannah Strauss, who was so impressive last week, the first year with a 9.7, and absolutely started what was a really solid beam team last week for the Bulldogs.
She is one of my favorite gymnasts on this event and on the floor exercise. She is tiny, but she is mighty. Beautiful opening acro series. She's a freshman, but she competes with so much confidence. You'd think she's the upperclassman. Wobble, but she resets her focus.
Yeah, we've seen Bridgeport in that last rotation really fighting it on the beam. And already here Hannah Strauss on the leadoff position, which is so challenging. You want to set the tone, and yeah, it looks like Strauss is off her rhythm.
Yes, she missed 2 connections. It looks like she's just going to move right forward in the routine. Went for it once, had 1 mishap, tried it again. Didn't work out as hoped, but here she is preparing for a huge double off the beam.
Yeah, certainly not the start that Yale was hoping for.
But again, she's just a freshman.
Yep.
So to have a freshman starting off on any event, especially the balance beam, the hardest, unarguably the hardest in women's gymnastics, that's huge.
And you're seeing her have a chat with top assistant Laura Burns. You fight, you put all that work in during the week, hope it pays off on the weekend, but now it's just you go at it again. That's all you can do.
And she still has floor to perform, so she's going to want to refocus and put down a big routine, as I know she can perform.
After Megan Workman went for Southern, this is Sarah Musa going. Shariah Musa, I should say.
Whoa, and that was a huge Takachi released, one of the highest we've seen in the competition today. She swings with so much aggression. A little short of that handstand. But a blindfold to an immediate dismount, and she is excited as she should be. Again, that was a huge release. Not many gyms can swing with that much power, and she does.
Sarah Musa had a 9.55 in their last meet for Southern at Temple. That's a good start after Megan Workman had a solid routine, still waiting for the scores. And Workman just clocked in at a 9.375. Little hop at the end, but
beautiful
good nonetheless.
Dismount. Beautiful dismount.
We head over now to the floor. This is, well, actually, this was a replay from Catherine Acoyne, who led it off for Bridgeport. And already the score in for Acoyne at 9.475. And we now head over live on the beam to Mara Singletary, a first year from Scotch Plains, New Jersey.
And she did just over-rotate her double back. Held on a little too long.
Yeah, we have seen for Bridgeport, this is the most challenging of the 4 events that they've had thus far. Their average is a 46.775, which is 7th of 8 teams in Gymnastics East, and their high is a 47.35. This was also a spot for Bridgeport last year that they kind of showed improvement on throughout the season, but need those numbers to go up.
And you know, UB, they do have an all-freshman squad on the floor exercise. Extremely rare, so to see them all come out is pretty huge.
No, that
pretty
it
huge.
is. You have to build confidence from somewhere, right? And confidence breeds success. Success breeds confidence.
Absolutely. Here she is gearing up for that last pass. A little short, but she lands it.
Also, you're hearing in the background the screams for the junior Audrey Arnold for Southern Connecticut State. It looks like the Owls are putting together a very fine bars team thus far. As we go over now to the beam for Yale. And this is Gigi Sabatini, first year from Pennsylvania. Sabatini, who has gone as high across the board this season with a 9.825.
She is putting down a really good set for Yale.
And this is her first competition on the beam this season. Has only been a vault and bar specialist to this point.
And a strong dismount. She's definitely going to be back in that lineup next week.
And again, that comes after a difficult routine for Hannah Strauss. And that's exactly what you needed right there. Here was Audrey Arnold's routine just a moment ago. A small hop in the landing, but still nonetheless, it's exactly what you want. We can actually go right back over to the bars if we can quickly, as JC Jordan right now up for Southern.
A little falter on that dismount, but she makes it around.
That was a huge double layout right there.
It was. This event isn't easy for Southern on as a team. So to come in this competition and just be able to put down routines that are clean, that you can land with good dismounts, that's their goal today in competition.
Southern looking really strong right now on the bars. Over to the floor for Bridgeport. Abigail Kenny currently getting started. Kenny, who's competed already today for Bridgeport on the bars in an exhibition on the beam. Had a really good exhibition. Didn't get the score, but still was able to put it to her feet on the landing, on the dismount.
And a strong, Rudy second pass after a pretty difficult 2.5 opening. She has the perfect music to get her teammates and the crowd involved. And that's what you want to do in your floor exercise routine.
You know, it's not only just the crowd and her teammates, but it's literally, as soon as the beat dropped a moment ago, I looked across Southern and Yale all dancing at the same time. It's like they've seen each team already this season.
And surprisingly, they haven't. That was a strong last pass. Definitely going to score really well for
Abigail
Bridgeport.
Kenny, a freshman from New Jersey, is Claire Q right now on the beam for Yale. And Sienna Ross getting about ready to go on the bars. Rios, excuse me, who had a miss on the vault earlier.
Oh, and she's just going to get that hand back around on top of the bars.
Actually, that was incorrect. It was Elena Bailey who had the miss in the vault. Rios had a really good score. He sent it over to Claire Q on the beam. Q last week, the very impressive 9.8.
She fights to stay on. She has exceptional lines. She knows how to extend in her leaps. As you see right there, the balance beam is only 4 inches wide, so these gymnasts are doing some big moves on such a tiny width.
Gigi Sabatini in her first ever competition on the beam, a 9.75. A great pickup after Strauss's 9.15.
And a great dismount. So far, so good for the Elbow Dogs.
Yeah, Sienna Rios, who's already fallen once. She's trying to finish strong here.
Beautiful handstand position. Big dismount. Did come in a little close, but she lands it on her feet very well.
Those Southerns still have their standout grad student, Hannah Stahlbrot, in the anchor position. What's this about Bridgeport and having some fun choreography and music, as Kieran Ross already showing off some moves.
One of my favorite routines. Huge double pike. She just has the absolute most fun in this routine, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, Kieran has scored as high as a 9.375. Started her collegiate career over at Rutgers before moving over. Absolutely feeling it on the floor right now.
You can tell she loves to party. She does kind of stumble on that last pass. Not sure if she put her hand down, but I didn't see a flag go up. You know, I love her flexibility in addition to her lines that I've just been raving over in this competition. She has definitely shown what she can do on the full exercise, showcasing her flexibility. And a good routine for Bridgeport, one of the fan favorites.
Meanwhile, we'll show it to you in a moment on bars, Hannah Stahlbrot just, I think, had the slightest of step outs there, but a very good bounce back after Rios missed. So Southern should be fine on the bars as Emma Mangia Capri going on the beam now, the junior from Pennsylvania, former USA Gymnastics All-American on the beam. This has been a tough beam thus far for Yale. It's been a lot of fighting the beam. Sabatini at a 9.75. Claire Q with a 9.525. Still trying to drop Hannah Strauss's 9.15.
Beautiful extension in that leap. Strong combination series. She is picking up the pace for the Yale Bulldogs in this competition on beam. Another difficult combination. Done very well. And a huge dismount. One of the few sticks we've seen today in competition.
Yale certainly needed that. Again, making sure to try and not have that fall from earlier. This was Hannah Stahlbrot. Big double layout. There was a small hop in there, but still nonetheless, that recovers the miss earlier.
And I have to say, what I love about Hannah is that she is recovering from an Achilles tear, which is not an easy injury to come back from.
This is an exhibition routine. Sarah Ortiz to finish.
Oh, and another huge double L dismount.
And now to Bridgeport on the floor, Olivia Imbarlina. Imbarlina, who just had a 9.7 on the beam a couple of minutes ago, 9.425 on the bars earlier.
Some of these floor freshmen from Bridgeport are definitely competing like veterans.
And even with Imbarlina, just a sophomore, I mean, she is basically a wise old veteran at this point. A very good routine for her. And this is a very good day as well. That was her last competition or event that she's going to be competing in on the afternoon. As now with both bars done, and only just one more to go for Bridgeport, and Lola Sepulveda will turn her attention over to the beam for Riley Meeks. Meeks last week in 9.675 on the beam. She's gone as high as a 9.8. Still waiting on Mangia Capri's score to come in for Yale.
And she's fighting. These teams today, they are fighting on the balance beam.
As we saw Bridgeport earlier, didn't have to count Nicole Javanette's fall at a 47.9. We're seeing the updated scores coming in for this rotation right now. Southern done on the bars with a 47.425.
That was a beautiful leap jump series. She's another one who can just really extend in her leap, something that the judges really look for. It's one thing to hit them perfectly, but it's another thing to even extend even more. And another stuck dismount. Yale is putting on the pressure in this competition today.
The anchor now for Bridgeport on the floor, Lola Sepulveda. Seen her compete already twice, a 9.5 on the bars and a 9.45 on the beam.
Head coach said she can fly, and she does a great 2.5 punch front. She does.
I did not see a flag come up. So
I didn't, so I think she's safe.
For those that are curious what we're talking about, if someone steps out of bounds, you get 1/10 deduction, and the flag goes up. You don't want flags.
No, you don't. The only red flag you don't want in gymnastics.
That score for Southern, by the way, on the bars, just shy of their season best, .025 off. So the Owls are putting together a really nice afternoon here at the Tonry Invitational. Now, Paris, we've been seeing a lot of athletes coming out of tumbling passes, going for leaps. I know that's kind of a way to try and make sure you get a stick to not give away any tenths.
No, absolutely. Sometimes when you're tumbling, you have too much power and you step back. Sometimes you're a little shy and you step forward. So the best thing to do is just jump. Try to mask any little landing error that you might possibly have in your tumbling.
As we go over now to the beam, Reagan Walker to compete. And remember, Walker fell last week. That's usually a score that you want to be keeping on the beam. She's gone as high as a 9.825 on the season.
One thing I love about Reagan is that she knows how to compete each week. Last week was last week, but heading into this week, she has a mindset to dominate. And a beautiful acro series.
It's a great start there. Again, Yale trying to drop Hannah Strauss's 9.15. Emma Mangia-Capri. I mean, there's been fight on the beam all day, but a 9.8 is a good score nonetheless.
You know, I spoke with Reagan last week, and she said that for her, it's just mental. She has to be confident with her mental game rather than her actual gymnastics. That was a beautiful combination that we've seen.
Mangia-Capri, that 9.8, that's a new season high for her, and I believe that ties her career high as well.
Beautiful extension in that leap and jump.
I confirmed, by the way, that the third time Mangia-Capri a 9.8 on beam in her career.
There's Reagan preparing for a big dismount. Back 1.5 to a layout, gain of full, and that was one of the best routines today. She did have a quite big error on that full turn, but nonetheless, her gymnastics, her leaps, it was exceptional.
Yeah, the good news is now for Yale, they can drop that fall from Strauss. These are exhibition routines now for Bridgeport. First, Margaret Coyle up. Coyle, first year from Lansdale, Pennsylvania, hasn't had a score count for the team thus far, but again, as we've said, this very young Bridgeport team trying to get as many athletes experience and competition reps as possible. Bridgeport are in on the floor of 47.825. And good news for them, that absolutely blasts their season average and high out of the water, way above their normal mark. It's huge for Bridgeport. In fact, for Bridgeport, this mark that they have is the best score that they've had since the close of the 2020 season.
You know, it honestly doesn't shock me. It doesn't.
I mean, it started well. There was a Singletary's mishap, a 8.35, but everybody else, it started with Catherine Acoyne, who has just a great, fun routine to watch, scores a 9.475, and then you had the Imbarlina 9.675, Kenny a 9.65, Sepulveda a 9.625, and Kieran Ross a 9.4, which for her, that is actually her new season best. So you're just stringing them together.
Head coach said that this team is laying down a new foundation. They are in a new era. And she said that her team, more than anything, they really just want to make the alumni and all those who came before proud.
Now this is Megan Brueck, the first year from Cincinnati, Ohio. Really only competed vault and floor specifically for Yale. We'll see Brueck on the floor in the next rotation. But similar to what Bridgeport's doing, getting a couple exhibition routines in there. And Brueck, I believe this might be the first time she's given it a go on the beam this season, even in an exhibition.
Love that move right there. She definitely brings her own uniqueness to her gymnastics.
Well, and also anybody that competes with Becky Hills, remember in the background, you've already got my vote. With David Guetta, absolute tune right there.
Great leap jump series. Small wobble. But solid gymnastics.
We will have one more exhibition floor routine after this for Bridgeport, Taylor Rendina. So we are all in here thus far through 3 rotations.
And a beautiful dismount. She waits exceptionally well to twist, something you don't see too often.
And you saw that almost big sigh of relief from her after she stuck the landing, just almost to say, good, I got that one out of the way. Just the first of many.
Exactly, the first of many.
All right, so this is the final performance here of this third rotation. Again, an exhibition. And it is Taylor Rendina out of Florida to go. Has yet to have a score count for Bridgeport on the season. Purple Knights after this will be heading to the vault. A beam 48.55 for Yale. And Bridgeport already their season best on the floor, 47.825. Their previous best on the floor, a 47.35. That's a half point right there. You keep building those increments. I mean, this is going to be a tough floor team to beat.
In the small air, it almost looks as if she got lost in the air. What that means is that sometimes when you're flipping and twisting, you lose air awareness and you're not sure where exactly in the air you are. Nonetheless, her team is backing her up, and she is set to finish this routine out strong. And she does. Back 1.5 punch front pike.
And a fun way to end the floor as well here. Which, funny enough, actually kind of helps for the Yale fans in attendance. They're already going to be in a good mood when the Bulldogs will take to the floor next. But an exhibition routine done for Taylor Rendina. Capping off what was a very good day on the floor for Bridgeport, a 47.825. They've been super consistent, the Purple Knights, as they'll finish on the vault in front of us. Yale will go to the floor, and Southern will go to the beam. The fourth rotation coming up in a little bit. You're watching Women's College Gymnastics on ESPN+. Welcome back here to Yale University. We're a few moments away from the start of the fourth rotation between Bridgeport, Southern Connecticut State, and Yale. Three Gymnastics East Conference competitors going at it here as these two teams will tangle in mid-March down at William & Mary at the GEC Championships. That's on March the 18th down in Virginia. Won't be the last time that these two teams will be seeing each other, though, throughout the course of the year. Yale will be seeing Bridgeport. Actually, the final time that Yale Gymnastics competes at home in just under a month from now, on March the 5th, Bridgeport will be in that. Bridgeport actually will have a home-and-home, yes, a home-and-home dual meet at the mid-portion of March. Senior days ending up being for both programs. And, yeah, it's funny how we get it in college sports. The season will be here before you know it, and then it's almost gone when you just get going.
Yeah.
But especially in gymnastics, that's how it is actually you're seeing right now there's a pause in proceedings. I think the vault table has just gotten a bit loose, so we've stopped the clock here. Not the first time we've had actually a bit of equipment issues right now. Earlier on the bars, this was during warm-ups before the event started. Had to do some work there. Now the vault table has, I'm not sure if it dislodged or something along those lines, but
You know, sometimes over time, especially with the vault, the tightening knobs can kind of get undone when gymnasts pound.
yeah.
And so eventually over time, it's quite hard to stay tight. I'm not sure if that's the case, but that is what it looks like it could be. When that happens, many a times when the gymnasts do block off the table or push off the table, it shakes and unfortunately can result in some unhappy endings for the gymnast.
Yeah, safety at the utmost paramount and importance. We're seeing Yale Athletics facility members trying to get everything sorted here. They have yet to restart the clock, which means that even though everyone's walked away from the table, means that we are yet to restart warm-ups. There's about 30 seconds or so left, and I know you spoke about it earlier, Paris, of how you're always kind of you're built to hurry up and wait, and scenarios will happen, things that are way out of your control. Though when it's so late on in the one-touch warm-up, kind of the last thing that you want is to get your final little bits and pieces in, and then all of a sudden you stop.
It is, but hey, when you have a coach like Byron Knox, who looks to be
balancing paper on his head
while doing a scale, even harder, you know, it just kind of, it makes the nerves ease.
Okay, we have restarted the clock here, so it looks like everything is back underway. It's about a minute before we get the final rotation going. We'll step aside briefly, and we'll see you for the fourth rotation in a moment here on ESPN Plus. Here at John J. Lee Amphitheater, again, we had a slight pause in the warm-up as the vault table slightly came off of his axis. I think that's probably the best way to put it, but we are good to go. Mechanical and technical issues on the equipment have been sorted. Yale on the floor, they've been dancing around for a while. They've been ready to get the party started. That's the most fun thing about women's college gymnastics, when the home team has the last of the rotations on the floor. This place usually tends, or any place for that matter, usually tends to explode. And I think for Yale, they're trying to recapture the imagination once again. Actually, we can go to beam right now as Southern already underway. Libby Allen, the sophomore from Franklin, Texas, to go. Allen has competed already on the vault and the floor here today.
Watching the girls on warm-ups, they looked very good on this event.
Which is the most difficult when there's any sort of pause during a warm-up. The last thing that you want is if you're conquering the beam to then stop and start again. The Tennessee native this year has gone as high as a 9.675 on the beam.
Has to take a step off to the side. She was a little low in that leap before going into that immediate aerial. That could have possibly played a little effect onto her possibly coming off.
Yeah, the beam has been a problem spot for Southern this season. They've gone as high as a 48.725, but their average is close to 47.0.
But a strong, strong dismount. Beautiful back 1.5 to finish with.
On a day where they've been so good, they've already beat their season average on the vault, right around their season average on the bars. Bridgeport now starting here on the vault, Savannah Lindley.
And a great opening vault, one of the more simple vaults that we've seen today, your Chanko layout.
And now the first year, Lauren Holt on the floor. Leadoff position, who's averaging a 9.63.
And a beautiful opening from the Michigan native. You know, she's truly taken us back in time with her music.
Yeah, we were impressed last week with the selection of Yale's music, and Temple as well, to be fair.
Yes.
It was a fun afternoon a week ago. Temple almost putting up a 195 on the day. Yale.
Beautiful second pass.
193.6 last week, looking to improve, and the Bulldogs on the floor a 48.7, which was their season high.
She twists with so much patience, which is something very hard to do as a gymnast. A lot of times we tend to rush our twisting skills, but she just has patience in it. It makes her float in the air. My favorite part of the routine.
Getting everybody going.
Captivates the audience. Strong finish.
It's exactly what you want to do, is the lead off on the floor. Lauren Holt looking for a big score there. Meanwhile, during that, we just saw the vault. Abigail Kenny, who put to the knees after a strong start from Savannah Lindley. Now Amelia Diaz on the beam after the fall to start from Libby Allen. Diaz, who was actually a second-team All-Gymnastics East on the beam a year ago, has gone as high as a 9.525. Just the third time competing this season, though, for Southern Connecticut State.
That's a beautiful combination that she performed, and that is extremely, extremely difficult aerial entry, but lands with 2 feet. Again, the Owls ending on this event is very strategic. They will be looking to work on their nerves on this event. Another very difficult move.
Yeah, as Byron Knox, the head coach, spoke about saying that he wanted to test his team on starting on every event throughout the course of the season. And today it's ending on the beam.
And a little stumble on that dismount, but nonetheless, she does make it on her feet. Kind of wrapped the second half of that twist a little too late.
Meanwhile, for Bridgeport on vault, Kieran Ross.
Oh! And that was unarguably the most biggest vault of the day.
She found that landing.
She did. Yurchenko half on, half off. Extremely rare to see. You don't see it too often.
A blind landing there as we head back over to the floor. Sarah Wilson. Kieran Ross, by the way, her season high in a vault, a 9.675. Not giving away too many tenths on the landing there. Wilson on the floor, as solid as ever, averages and her high, basically the same thing, a 9.75. Lauren Holt started the floor for Yale with a 9.725.
Oh, and she just holds on a little too much. You know, I would even say, though, it almost looked as if the mat was in the way rather than her own tumbling.
I was about to say, like, it didn't look all that short.
No, she landed perfectly on the crack of the mat, and when that happens, sometimes you're not able to move your foot back to take that step that you need.
Take a look from a couple of athletes ago. This was the fall from Abigail Kenny right before Kieran Ross stuck. And also she hit the Millie Rock right in front of us walking back. Lola Sepulveda on the vault.
And a bigger Yurchenko layout full. Small hop back, step back, but she is happy with that vault.
Maria Damiano, the freshman from Randolph, New Jersey going, is a beam specialist. Has competed in 5 of the 6 meets thus far and got her season best last Sunday in 9.825. Looking to build on it here.
Beautiful combination. She paced herself so very well on this event, and that is one of the biggest keys to performing well on the beam. Small wobble, but she stays on and masks it pretty well.
And remember, Allen fell at the beginning of her beam routine, a 9.125.
And this try me, there is so much noise from every angle of the arena.
Well, Kieran Ross just hit a new season best, 9.7 for that stuck landing on the vault.
Oh, and a huge dismount.
And Southern needed that. As we head back over to the floor for Yale, Hannah Strauss. This is a big routine for her. Had a very difficult go on the beam last rotation. She'd love to go 3 for 3 on the passes and put together a big score.
She's going to open up with a very difficult open and pass. Round back 2.5 punch front. And she nails it.
Yeah, you saw just a small smile out of the corner of her mouth. After, again, a challenging beam, you want to get that first pass out of the way.
Again, I say all the time, I love her gymnastics. The look that she has, it's not too often that you see. As I always say, she is tiny, but she is mighty.
And definitely be looking to put together a score like she had last week, and 9.8 on the floor. She was a rock star in her 2 events last week. And trying to just build on what Yale started on the floor thus far.
finishing with a huge double pike. And that's going to score big for Yale.
Great routine right there for Hannah Strauss, and you see everyone going over trying to pick her up. Bridgeport have put together a couple of really nice vaults here. This is Joanna Chambers, or excuse me, no, Jordan Street, my apologies. Just a moment before, and then Joanna Chambers just now.
And
the anchor.
Joanna's vault is very difficult for handspring front half twist. She cowboys that thing around and she lands it on her feet. Love it.
Street a 9.725, Sepulveda a 9.7, Kieran Ross with a 9.65. I thought I saw a 9.7. That was actually for the routine after. Still for Ross, that is just about a new season best for him. Bridgeport are putting together a great vault to finish out. This has been another weak spot for them. It doesn't look like it. Abby Royer on the beam for Southern Connecticut State, just finishing her routine.
And that was a very, very good routine actually from Abby.
Royer has gone as big as a 9.775 on the beam this season. Megan Brueck competed as an exhibition on the beam last rotation for Yale. Did have a good solid routine. Didn't get a score from it, but Brueck now to go on the floor, and this is where she can put up another big mark. It's gone as high as a 9.775. That was last week.
And a great opening pass. You know, this Yale team this week looks so different from last week. They look so much more confident, so much more put together as a team.
Well, still, again, they have to try and avoid counting the score of Sarah Wilson, who had a 8.875, again, which is very uncharacteristic from her.
Here she's going to go for that last pass. And she finishes it well. Yeah, they're going to be happy with this competition that they're competing today.
Great work there from the first year, Megan Brueck. This is Emily Kale, the junior from Pennsylvania. She's scored around an average of a 9.6, 9.7 this season. Her high is a 9.725, which was earlier on this season on the opening meets at Penn State.
And she fights to stay on the beam. Both her feet were so much on the side when completing that leap.
And we've seen it all afternoon. The beam has been a tough, tough battle for all these teams.
And a beautiful dismount, cartwheel back 1.5. Again, another combination dismount you don't see all too often.
The Southern are picking it up after Libby Allen fell to begin. A 9.7 from Amelia Diaz. I thought for a second it was going to be tight to see if her knee fell to or hit the floor when she was going for her dismount, but it did not. 9.7. Abby Royer 9.775. Maria Damiano 9.825, which ties her career high, and that should be a good one from Kale. As now Riley Meeks to perform here for Yale. Meeks last week fell on the floor, and you know that's not usually in her repertoire. It's usually 3 passes for 3.
And with the first pass like that, she's competing for a 3-pass for 3-pass routine.
Meeks, the senior from Michigan, has scored as high as a 9.725 this season. That came down at North Carolina on the 23rd of January.
Riley, she's such a strong competitor, very confident in her movement. One of the gymnasts that you know when she competes, she's going to score well and put a big one up.
And she's going to have a whole lot of fun doing it as well.
Nails that last pass. Again, they look so different from last week. They're competing with so much fire. Something that we've missed in their competition.
And again, this is after one of their more consistent performers in Sarah Wilson falling at the beginning of this rotation, but Yale are putting on a show. Closing it out on the beam for Southern is Angel Lee. We haven't seen Bridgeport in some time, by the way. They've been done on the vault and on the day for a while, but Paris, would you be surprised if I told you it's a new team season high for them this year? A 1.91325.
They've competed very well today, and honestly, they have surprised me the most. They have such a young team, but they came out competing so well, just like Miss Lee on the balance beam.
Lee, the sophomore from California, she's expecting usually a big mark, has scored as high as a 9.85 this season. That came last Sunday.
And the way this routine is going, she's going to score big again. Another big combination.
Again, remember, Southern trying to avoid counting the fall from Libby Allen.
All she has left is her dismount. Her Owl team is shouting big for a big dismount, and they get it. Lee sticks her dismount, and she and her team are pumped and excited. That was such a strong routine, and arguably probably one of the biggest routines of the day on the balance beam.
She was almost in disbelief when she landed that dismount. Well, she stuck it. Now we head over to the anchor for Yale, Sherry Wong. Wong last week a 9.75, which is her season best. Again, so important here for Yale because they need this to be a hit to drop that fall. Still waiting on the beam scores of a couple of Southern athletes, Emily Kale and the most recent Angel Lee.
A sky and double tuck dismount. It did almost look, however, as if she kind of rotated a little slow in the air, but again, she makes it on her feet and she lands upright.
Big last pass coming here.
Back 1.5 punch lay. That back 1.5, that was skying, and if she wasn't careful, she could have set that down, but again, she's not that type of gymnast.
Able to fight that one through and finish it out. Those are the 6 that will count for Yale. Now we're on to exhibitions. Charlie Lister, a product from Surrey in South England to go.
And the score that Lee just put up was a 9.875, extremely close to that 9.9 mark.
Yeah, it definitely looks like they're not going to have to worry about counting Libby Allen's score. With Damiano 9.825, Amelia Diaz 9.7, Emily Kale was up for a 9.6, Abby Royer 9.775. Paris, we're seeing big marks across the board, and we're also seeing just team season highs. You want to keep improving at this time of the year and keep raising those averages.
Absolutely. The closer you get to championship season, the closer you want to perfect and execute your routines.
9.875 for Angel Lee. That's a new season high. And it's a new career high for her as well. qualified for USA Gymnastics Nationals last year. We will have a couple of Yale exhibitions on the floor to finish the day out, but a strong routine there for Charlie Lister, senior from England.
Definitely a strong comeback. It's not easy having to kind of build the momentum back up when you do take a fall, but Charlie does it well, and she finishes very strong.
If I seem to remember correctly, Paris, this is kind of a nice renaissance for British gymnastics, by the way. I think they had one of their better showings in the Worlds last year, seeing some athletes coming through.
They did. They did actually have some big routines that finished with gold medals. So definitely a historic year for them.
Expectations that we'll see more products from across the pond to come. Now there's, it looks like another Southern exhibition. We did not have this given to us, that there would be a second exhibition. So this might have been added on after we got the original lineup. But Yale still have Emma Mangia-Capri and Gigi Sabatini each to perform. Mangia-Capri, who's, as always, rock solid on the beam with the 9-8. Still waiting on that Sherry Wong score to come in. Yale looking to drop Sarah Wilson's 8.875. But it should be a solid score nonetheless to give Yale a floor score that they'll be happy about.
You can see her team is in the background doing her choreography with her. That's one of the beautiful things about women's college gymnastics and floor exercise. You see a lot of that going on. And a huge last pass for this Bulldog, who is putting down a big routine for Yale today.
So we go over to the beam here. Paris, I think this is Hannah Stahlbrat. Again, this was not given to us before the meet started, having a second exhibition for Southern, but still nonetheless an Owls day, a good day on the beam. 48.775. That is a huge mark for them, which is a new season high for them. We've said that a lot here today.
Hannah, again, she is coming back from an Achilles tear, and speaking with Coach Byron for the competition, he said he usually gives that type of injury a year worth minimum for a comeback, but he said that she's just so eager and she's been working so well in the gym with her trainers that she was able to come back a little sooner. And a huge dismount.
Well, it would explain a lot, because Stahlbrat, who as a freshman was a All-American on the beam and the all-around for Southern, posted a program record in the shortened 2020 season of a 39.075.
Again, that was a huge double twist dismount.
And that didn't look like someone who was, getting some competition reps. That was someone that's one rehab start away from being that Friday night starter.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is now the final exhibition of the afternoon. Gigi Sabatini onto the floor. Final scores are in. Sherry Wong, it's a 9.4, probably for Yale what they did not want to have as their last athlete up. They still don't have to drop Sarah Wilson's, or they still do drop Sarah Wilson's 8.875. It's a 48.425 for Yale on the floor. little off from what they had just a week ago. Solid, though, nonetheless, and has a team score of 194.075, which is less than 0.2 off of their season best at North Carolina. And they had a 194.25. And Paris, I think that the big one here is, we're talking about seeding for championship meet. We're talking about seeding for USA Gymnastics Collegiate Nationals as well. It's that regional qualifying score that you need to have up. And with Yale only having 3 home meets, you're supposed to count 3 road meets in there as well. You want these home meets to be as good as you can have it.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to get that home crowd in. And even more, to place those home meets in the season where you know your team is going to be able to pick up the pace.
Yes, you basically think you take the top 6 scores throughout the season for your team average, you drop the highest one, and then you average them out, and that's where you stand. And that goes into your seeding purposes for your conference championship and your national meets. And of course, with an 8-team Gymnastics East, you want to be in the second session, the night session. That's where the best 4 averages go.
And a great pass.
Sabatini, who has competed on the vault and the bars this season, trying to put together a solid floor exhibition.
You know, Yale, floor isn't traditionally a strong event for Yale, but today, I think it says otherwise.
Yeah, good day for Yale. Obviously, again, probably hoping that the 48.425 just a little higher, but that's still kind of right in the middle where they've been this season. We will take a break. When we come back, we will recap today's action. Yale winning the meet, but we'll tell you all about it when we come back after this on ESPN+. After 4 rotations here at the John J. Lee Amphitheater on the campus of Yale University, Yale have won the annual Tonry Invitational with a team score of a 148.075. Southern Connecticut State with a team high 192.875. Bridgeport with a team high 191.325. You're seeing some of the highlights from the final rotation here. In Paris, Yale, not their best score as a team this season on the floor, but certainly a lot of positives to take. Riley Meeks right there, that's a big hit for her, as is for Joanna Chambers on the vault with a very impressive 9.725.
In today's competition, these girls came out for one goal. That was to dominate, to improve, and each of these teams can walk away today saying that.
No, most definitely, and you're seeing some of Southern Connecticut's highlights on the beam. A very impressive beam for them today. In fact, their season best, 48.775. We could actually say that a lot about a lot of these team scores. Bridgeport, by far probably the most impressive of the bunch. The vault, it's a new season high for them. We already said the team score, a new season high for them. On the bars, just off their season high, but not all that much. And kind of right in the middle on the beam, but it's that consistency that you want at this time of the year, crucial for them. Southern didn't have to count a fall on the day, which is a big plus for them, and they also got some big scores in there as well. And yeah, I think really for all these teams, you said it's job done.
It was a job done, and a job done very well. Very, very well.
So now as we go, and we'll stay with live pictures, and you'll hear the results of each of the 4 apparatus and the all-around. But where do the teams go from here? Because now we're looking second half of the regular season, then championship season coming up in just about a month's time from now. You can even go for each, for Bridgeport, for Southern, and then for Yale. Where do you expect these teams to go from here?
From here, I expect them to pick up the pace. At this point in the season, there isn't room for much error, so it's going in the gym, hitting those big sets, and really working on the nerves and the pressure, doing more pressure routines. In the championship, you're playing for a title.
Yep.
You're not competing, for just a regular home win. So I'm expecting for these teams to really go in the gym and just work on mastering how to deal with the pressure that they're going to have for championships this season.
We'll go over some of the finals for you on each of the 4 events. Southern Connecticut 1 and 2 on the vault. Sienna Rios with a meet high 9.775. Lexi Bratcher second for Southern with a 9.75 and a multiple athlete tie for third on the vault, a 9.725. That's Yale's Oren Aviata and Gigi Sabatini, Bridgeport's Jordan Street, Joanna Chambers, and Southern's Brianna Dorr. You're seeing the best of the best on the bottom of your screen. Yale's Reagan Walker with a 9.85 on the bars. She won that event. Sherry Wong second, 9.75. Hannah Stallbra a 9.725 on the beam. Angel Lee with a big performance, and Maria Damiano with a 9.825. Those are the marks that Southern are really hoping to see. Emma Mangi Capri a 9.8. And then on the floor, Hannah Strauss, again, after the fall that she had on the beam, a 9.8. That is a big, big score for her. Ties a career high. Riley Meeks' 9.775. New season high for her, coming after a fall on this event from a week ago. And then Sienna Rios also tying that, a 9.75. They're seeing Byron Knox giving high fives to all his athletes, getting stuff up on social media because that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. In this new age of social media and NIL, it's all about capturing those viral moments.
Again, for Yale, they'll be on the road for 2 meets. George Washington next week, and then the Ivy Classic. That is the title. But Yale has the very interesting bit. They get to compete in 3 championships. So the Ivy, of course, is a conference and a conference, but the Ivy is so important for them. Bridgeport, they'll be on the road. Back again. They don't have a home meet till the end of the month. Their first of the season. They're at William & Mary next week. Southern Connecticut State at New Hampshire. Well, this has been fun, Paris. A good, solid meet once again. A pleasure as always, and looking forward to our last meet, which will be at the 5th of March.
Absolutely.
Here. So that's going to do it for us. For our entire production team and for Paris McGee Jr., I'm JJ Duke. We're signing off. We will stay with live pictures again as they announce the final scores for all events, as well as the all-around. Oh, forgot to mention the all-around champion, a new season best and career best for Lola Sepulveda, 38.275. Kieran Ross, a 37.9. Though Abigail Kenny also, she didn't compete in all 4 to score, but did compete in all 4 events, but didn't factor on that. But you see the final scores. Yale win the Tonry Invitational 194.075. Southern 192.875. Bridgeport 191.325. Again, stay with us for live pictures of the results. That'll do it here from us from New Haven, Connecticut.
Barbara Tonry's life work was to surround herself with greatness. Her decorated career as a coach and a gymnast was highlighted by a number of accolades, including her induction into the U.S. Gymnastics Federation Hall of Fame, the National Tumbling and Trampoline Hall of Fame, and the Texas Hall of Fame. Yale Gymnastics won its first ever meet under Barbara's direction, as well as the first ever Ivy League Women's Gymnastics Championship in 1977. The Bulldogs went on to win 9 Ivy League championships and 7 Ivy League Classic titles. In 2017 and 2018, she led the Bulldogs to back-to-back ECAC championships, a first in program history. The success led to her being named the ECAC Coach of the Year in 2017, and then earned the country's highest distinction as USA Gymnastics Collegiate National Head Coach of the Year in 2018. From the beginning, Barbara gave all she had to Yale and the sport of gymnastics. Now, as we look back and celebrate her life, we remember the lasting legacy she left behind, one that will forever live on through Yale Gymnastics.
Joining us today for the presentation of the awards for the Barbara and Don Tonry Invitational, Abby Grossfeld. Abby has represented the United States as a gymnastics competitor or coach in 7 Olympic Games, 7 World Championships, 6 Maccabee Games, and 5 Pan American Games. He was also on the 1960 Olympic team with Don and a dear friend of the Tonrys. Please join us in thanking Abby for being a part of today's ceremony in our Barbara and Don Tonry. Individual results on vault. And we have a 5-way tie for third, all with a 9.725. First from Southern Connecticut, Brianna Dorr. From Bridgeport, Joanna Chambers. From Bridgeport, Jordan Street. From Yale, Gigi Sabatini. Also from Yale, Oren Avia. In second place with a 9.75, from Southern Connecticut, Lexi Brocker. And your winner on vault with a 9.775, from Southern Connecticut, Sienna Rios. Nope. Standing in for Sienna Rios. Individual results on the uneven parallel bars. In third place with a 9.725, from Southern, Hannah Stahlbrot. In second with a 9.75, from Yale, Sherry Wong. And your winner with a 9.85, from Yale, Reagan Walker. Individual results on balance beam. In third place with a 9.8, from Yale, Emma Mangia-Capri. In second place with a 9.825, from Southern, Maria Damiano. And in first with a 9.875, from Southern Connecticut, Angel Lee. Results for floor exercise. A 2-way tie for second with a 9.775, from Southern Connecticut, Sienna Rios. And from Yale, Riley Meeks. And in first place with a 9.8, from Yale, Hannah Strauss. In the all-around results, in second place with a 37.9, from Bridgeport, Karen Ross. And And first place with a 38.275, also from Bridgeport, Lola Sepulveda. Lola, come on up and get your award. Final team standings with a 191.325, Bridgeport. With a 192.875, Southern Connecticut. And in first place with a 194.075, your own Yale Bulldog. One last round of applause for Bridgeport, Southern, and Yale. All Yale Gymnastics alumni are invited to the floor for a group photo. Thank you for your attendance today. Your Bulldogs will be back at home for their senior meet on Sunday, March 5th at 1 p.m. Please drive home safely and have a good evening.
This is what we on the brink of.